In the middle of the track is Arrgh. They're coming to the finish, and it's all Arrgh.
The voice is familiar. Legendary race caller Tom Durkin, a fixture on the New York racing circuit for the last 24 years.
And welcome to Saratoga.
But his illustrious career as an announcer spans 43 years, rising up the ranks and calling some of the greatest moments in modern racing history.
The incomparable, invincible, unbeatable cigar!
As a youth, Tom developed a passion for announcing.
I grew up in Chicago and I idolized the track announcer at Arlington Park, Phil Georgieff. I wanted to be Phil Georgieff in the worst way. And he was a great announcer, very energetic, lively, exciting.
Six-foot chariot all by himself, America's super horse.
I don't sound a bit like Phil, but I think I got my start actually imitating. And they're off. My first job was actually at the Fond du Lac County Fair in 1971. Since then, it's just been one great break after another.
Tom's biggest break occurred back in 1984 when he was tapped to announce an event that would change the face of racing, the Breeders' Cup World Championships.
What a finish! Wild again! Gate Dancer! Sluagal in between them!
As the announcer for the Breeders' Cup, he's called all the big races.
Giants Causeway and Tisdale! A heart-pounding, pulsating straight drive!
His calls have been classics the instant they've come out of his mouth.
First to the Linton, a dramatic finish, and here is the wire! And Sunday Silence holds on, and he wins by a desperate neck!
Tom's greatest contribution, however, might just be his uniquely innovative style.
Tom Durkin revolutionized race calling by making a story out of the running of the race.
Rachel Alexandra, macho again. Here's the wire. Rachel won. She is indeed Rachel Alexandra the Great.
He makes a race fun to listen to.
Spine tickles front side, the horse comes back! Unbelievable! This is the greatest comeback since Lazarus.
There was a horse called Yakahikamadola back in the 80s. And, you know, you name a horse like that, fine, I'll give you what you want.
And the trailer is Dola Rolla Rolla Rakadaka Mola Hola.
Yaka dika mola hola, hikamika raka nakadola dola rola cola cola.
We're going to miss him a lot. Sad to see him go, but happy for him to go enjoy all the things that he loves to do.
At the end of the day, there's only one Tom Durkin, and guys like that are irreplaceable.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Thoroughbred Owner Conference Master of Ceremonies, Tom Durkin.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I watch those races and I keep on hoping, oh God, make sure you get it right. Don't screw it up. Wait, what are you doing? It was happened 20 years ago. You can't screw it up. It's already happened. So anyway, welcome to the 5th Ownerview Conference, the Thoroughbred Owner Conference. It's been a great last few years, and let's hope we can keep this ball rolling for a few more. And welcome to the state of Kentucky and to our fair city. Now, first of all, I need to give you guys a bit of a little schooling here on how to say the name of the city that you are in. Otherwise, you will be exposed as a tourist and an outlier immediately. And it will raise your hotel prices to 3 times what they already are anyway if they don't. So, it is not a 3-syllable word. Don't get caught saying the word Louisville. It's 2 syllables. Louisville. Now you got to use all the apparatus that you have, your teeth, your tongue, your lip, and very importantly, you have to use the guttural part of your larynx. That's where the "whoa" comes in. And it's not "ville." Please not "ville" it. "Whoa." And you'll be all set. So we'll be here for the next few days in beautiful Louisville, Kentucky. Not only famous for Churchill Downs, but famous for some of the greatest, including the greatest. As when I was growing up, we first come to know him as Cassius Clay, and of course he is the great Muhammad Ali, the greatest Muhammad Ali. Then there's the great actress J. Law, Jennifer Lawrence, and perhaps the craziest person that Louisville has ever produced. That would be gonzo journalist Hunter S. Thompson, who was clearly out of his mind. And perhaps the most handsome person that Louisville has ever produced, and that would be Tom Cruise, who actually was a newspaper boy for the Louisville Courier-Journal when he was just a kid. Also famous here in Louisville, it is the home of Yum Brands, which is Taco Bell, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and Pizza Hut. So it's the home for Taco Bell, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and Pizza Hut, which is why that Weight Watchers International does not have their headquarters here in Louisville. Louisville makes more disco balls than any other city in the country, which is why the Bee Gees are going to make their comeback here if they ever do. It is actually 2 signature drinks that they have here, which of course is the mint julep, which we have at the Derby, of course. And this is also where the Old Fashioned was invented. So here in Louisville, they like to drink, and they like to drink bourbon. And much like Weight Watchers International not being here, this is why Alcoholics Anonymous does not have their headquarters in Louisville. And we also make the Louisville Slugger Bats, and that brings us to our first speaker, who's going to give his welcoming pitch to you. How many Boston Red Sox fans here? Congratulations. We are going to have a fellow up here that once upon a time did pitch for the Boston Red Sox, and his first job was with right down the road here, the Cincinnati Reds. He spent 11 years in the big leagues. The first batter he ever faced, the first batter, then the first time he's pitching in the big leagues, Mike Marshall comes to the plate. His very first batter hit the ball out of the park. But things did get a little better. In 1986, his earned run average was 0.72. Now, if you're not a baseball fan, probably doesn't mean much to you. If you're a baseball fan, you're astonished at that number. If you're a football fan, it'd be the equivalent of about making 4 touchdowns on average every game. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a racing fan and a man that could really fire that ball, Rob Murphy. It looks like he can still throw it about 95 miles an hour. I don't know.
Thank you, Tom. You know, Mike Marshall regretted that day. He was 1 for 9 after that. Don't worry about it. 5 strikeouts. And when he got traded to Boston, we finally saw each other about 2 hours after batting practice had started. And he looked at me, he goes, you know, I'm sorry for doing that. I said, I took it out on you, didn't I? Thanks for ruining my debut. Do you know how many people said to me, welcome to the big leagues after that? Everybody. But thank you for remembering the good stuff, Tom. Baseball and horses have ups and downs and so many things that blend together. It's really amazing, as now a lot of my life is in hindsight here. The conference here, the Thoroughbred Owner Conference here, has been something that I've always paid attention to, let's say from the outside, already thinking I'm an owner, but as I'm looking around, I see a lot of owners here, and that's great because that's what it's about, continuing ownership. And, you know, this is why we're here. And I want to thank also Mr. Gary Falter for reminding me that I needed to get here yesterday, not today, but made it on time. So Churchill Downs here, this historic place, has held some of racing's greatest moments. In this spring, we watched the 144th Kentucky Derby. We watched a brilliant colt named Justify win wire to wire like nobody thought he could. But what we really didn't realize, we were watching the 13th Triple Crown winner get started through that quest. Breeders' Cup at Churchill Downs has really been a defining moment for many horses and the sport in general. The first Breeders' Cup here was in 1988. I remember a very sloppy track, and I remember watching the great Personal Ensign get up, beat the Derby winning filly, winning colors. Your Tom, you got it right. It was Personal Ensign in front. It was great. The classic that night in the pitch of dark, remember that, Tom? There was only one light shining down on the finish line. It was Ali Sheba beating Seeking the Gold. I mean, incredible races. In 91, my memory of the Breeders' Cup here is one word, Arazi. If you saw it, you know what I mean. There's no other explanation. In 1998, we had what I thought was the greatest single grouping of horses in one starting gate ever. We had the previous year's Derby and Preakness winner, Silver Charm. We had the Belmont winner, Touch Gold. We had that current year's Belmont winner, Victory Gallop. The current year's Travers winner, Coronado's Quest. We had the Horse of the Year from Europe in Swain, and they all got beat by Frank Stronach's horse, who had won the Queen's Plate, Awesome Again. I mean, it was, to me, the greatest single gate full of horses. You know, baseball and horses have always been a family event for me. You know, going through the first turnstile at Calder Racecourse with my dad, watching some of his horses run down in Miami. And seeing him move from Miami up to Ocala. My mom and dad lived up there 30 years, so it was horses 24/7. If you are a horse owner or if you live in a farm, you know that it's 24/7. You never know when you're going to get one of those calls. And with this family of event that we have literally day after day, you realize that, you know, that family really matters. And my mom and dad met at the track as kids. They lived in Ocala for 30 years. My mom's dad announced the races for 35 years. Oaklawn, Arlington, Washington Park, and I believe he was here at Churchill for about 10 years. My dad's stepfather was a jockey. Of course, I didn't get the jockey blood, but you know. Freddie Smith, he won the 41 Preakness in Belmont on E.R. Bradley's Bimlick. So racing has been in my family all the way along. But my favorite Breeders' Cup at Churchill Downs was in 2000. One of our homebreds, a filly named Platinum Tiara, was here training for the juvenile filly race. She had developed a habit about breaking slowly, spotting the field a few lengths. We had to straighten that out. So for 10 days prior to the Derby, our trainer Joe Wanch and Shane Sellers worked on that and got her to a point where when that bell rang, she was pushing off and getting out of the gate. So we drew post 3. We love that. And it's one of those things where on the mound, I have the baseball. I can step off. I can dry my hand on the rosin bag. I can take my time getting my signs. I can shake my head with the catcher, whatever signs he gives. I'm in control of what's happening. But in horse racing, we do not have control. The trainers that live at the barn 24/7, when they give that jockey a leg up, they don't have any more control. So watching this filly go around this oval right out here, about the half-mile pole, she was in 7th position. And that she figured to come from off the pace. And through the far turn, she moved to 6th. She moved to 5th. She moved to 4th. She moved to 3rd. She got to 2nd, and she missed winning by that much. Talk about a thrill. Talk about a thrill. I'm there with my kids, my dad. It was amazing. And Breeders' Cup was no more coined for that moment than any other moments here because we had her mother, her brother, her sister. That's what it was about. Started a mare. I claimed her mother at the fairgrounds Christmas Eve, 95, for $5,000. $5,000. And then the way racing goes and breeding, once these good mares come off the track, you call Claiborne Farm and say, I'd like to breed this stallion. And they say, sure enough. And you call Lane's End Farm, and I'd like to breed AP Indy, sure enough. And it's been an amazing ride. It's been incredible. And this started over 30 years ago. something happened this summer that it struck me only after the fact. Our jockey in the Breeders' Cup that year in 2000 was Shane Sellers. I had not seen or spoken to Shane since the race. He got hurt, so he never rode her back. He didn't come down to Florida, and we saw each other in July at the sale. His eyes met mine, and we walked up, shook hands, and hugged like we had seen each other last week. And that's one of those moments that reminds me of how baseball and horses are so intertwined. It's always about teamwork, and you always have to have a little good luck to make things happen right. There's one way that baseball is not like horses, and that's when you finish second. So in that day, right here on this oval, our partnership for running a losing race, we got a check a few weeks later for $228,000. You know, it was great. I mean, you know, when anybody that's been involved in a partnership, runs a partnership, or anything like that, you know that's a good day. And I was talking to some of my new partners, first-time horse owners own part of this filly. And I was explaining to them how in baseball, if you finish second in the game, that's dead last. That's dead last. So baseball does not compare when you talk about being second. So one more thing I'm going to get to, and it's about one of those things that always comes up where baseball and horses are similar to me. I have new partners, I have guests at the track, and they always ask, what do the jockey and the trainer talk about right before the race? Well, the reality is there could be instructions passed along. They could be talking about golf or poker or something else. And it's just like a visit to the mound by the manager or a pitching coach. The single best mound visit conversation I ever heard of, I was not part of. It happened on September 14th, 1991. My future team was playing my past team. The Astros were in Riverfront Stadium playing the Reds. Mark Portugal was pitching for the Astros, pitching pretty well, going into the fourth inning, and Mariano Durkin hits a home run. So if you've ever been to Riverfront, the fireworks go up over the river, you know, the batter goes around the plate, and you get a new ball from the umpire. So a few pitches later, Mark is throwing to Hal Morris, and Hal Morris, a great hitter, hits another one out of the park. If you know Mark Portugal, he's not too happy. No pitcher would be happy, but he's really angry with himself. Hal Morris runs around the bases, the fireworks go off, there we go. So the pitching coach, Bob Cluck, one of my favorite coaches ever, he calls timeout and walks out there. And Mark Portugal looks at him and is like, Bob, Mark's going to run the meeting here. Bob, what are you doing out here? Well, I was going to come talk to you. He goes, I don't need you to talk to me. I don't need you to tell me that I hung those two pitches and they hit home runs off me because I already know that, Bob. He said, well, really, Mark? I was really giving the fireworks guy time to reload. And wouldn't you know it, the next pitch, Paul O'Neill hits a third home run in a row. So as far as mound meeting goes, I'm glad I wasn't the subject of that. Thank you very much. Appreciate your attention, time. Thank you.